are listening to the Scoreboard, and you're going to be listening to me for the next hour or so. Oh, we're going to hang out, have a good time. Now, I got to tell you guys, if you're listening to this on this Friday, I am not actually in the studio. This episode has been recorded at an earlier date. So unfortunately, we won't be able to take your phone calls today. But we do have a lot to go over. So we're going to have a pretty jam-packed show here this afternoon. A lot of things going on. All four major sports, all four of them. Baseball, football, hockey, basketball. You have the MLS playoffs beginning this weekend. You have the NASCAR Cup Series heading to Homestead Miami Speedway for race number 2 of round number 3 of the NASCAR playoffs. We have high school sports. We have college sports. I mean, like October, and I've said it all month, October is the best month for sports. Now, I know a lot of people like to say March, and March Madness is a big part of that. I understand. But you do not have all four major sports at the same time in March. We do have that going on now in this month of October. We're going to go over game number 1 of the World Series in Major League Baseball. The LA Dodgers taking on the New York Yankees in what should be a wonderful series. 2 star athletes going against each other. More than 2. I mean, the stars are going to be out tonight. Complete opposite of what we had last year with Major League Baseball and the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. And that's something that you got to keep in mind. You know, I love people who say, oh, man, baseball or sports in general, they're scripted. They're scripted. Baseball wanted the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. And it's like, okay, but what about last year? Like, did they really want the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks playing each other last year? It was one of the least watched World Series of all time. I doubt that's going to be the case tonight. Game number 1. First pitch will be right around 8:08, and this game will be in L.A. So the baseball season winds down. We had some football last night as well. Thursday night football, the Rams and the Vikings. Are the Vikings for real? Can the Rams recover from the rough start to the season they've had? They got a couple of receivers back. They got Cooper Kupp. They got Puka Nacua back in the fold. Well, the Rams were able to come away with the victory in this one, putting them back in the win column with the score. And it's the wrong score, but it's the right score. The Rams won 30-20. Now, late in the fourth quarter, we all know what happened with the safety and the face mask. And should it have been a face mask? Should it have been a safety? Well, obviously it was a face mask, but the referees didn't call it. Officiating yet again is a topic of conversation in the NFL. Gotta love when that happens. Gotta love it. Anyway, we got a lot to get to. We are going to start our conversation today in the world of high school sports because it was round number 2 of the volleyball playoffs last night. We're going to go through the 1 all the way through the 4A. And actually, I'm going to take a seat for this because we got a lot to go over. And I need to be nice and relaxed and ready to go here because we got a lot of high school volleyball to talk about, starting with the 1A bracket. We know there's a couple of schools in our area in the 1A, including Christ the King High School, who played Hiwassee Dam High School last night, and it was a clean sweep on the sets, a 3-0 win for Christ the King. They move on into round 3 here, which is going to be taking place tomorrow. Round 3, Christ the King High School plays Polk County High School. That is a 3 versus a 6. Christ the King is a 6 seed in this one. That's the only school in our general area here in volleyball. Everybody else outside the listening area. So we got to Rally around Christ the King High School. They are located out of Huntersville, North Carolina. That girls volleyball team, 18-8 overall this year, 92nd ranked program in the state, and they move on to round number 3. Let's get into the 2A bracket because we do have a couple of other schools in our area in the 2A bracket that I'd like to talk about, starting with Community School of Davidson. CSD, that is. They ended up playing Hendersonville last night and got the clean sweep. A lot of clean sweeps in the volleyball bracket this year. 3-0 on the sets. So the 7 seed, Community School of Davidson, moves on to the 3rd round where they will be taking on seed number 2, Brevard High School. That is going to be a game to keep an eye on. In this 2A bracket, my alma mater, Pine Lake, was in action last night against East Surrey High School. It was a 5 seed in East Surrey taking on the 12 seed of Pine Lake. And unfortunately, the beautiful run for Pine Lake this year has come to an end as they lose 3-0 on sets to East Surrey. Congratulations, Pine Lake. Wonderful year. Coach Polk, we had her in twice this year. We had a few of the student athletes, I should say, as well. So that's tough to see, but next year I expect them to build on it, not losing all that many seniors from what I've heard. So I expect Pine Lake to have a good program again next year. Moving on to the 3A bracket, we have a local area, not rivalry, but it is a playoff match that's coming up tomorrow night. Actually, tomorrow afternoon. This game is going to be at 12 o'clock. The 2 seed, North Iredell High School, will be playing Lake Norman Charter, the 10 seed. That's tomorrow at 12 o'clock. We have a noon game there. It's a weekend, so obviously the kids are not in school. That is the only 2 programs in 3A that remain in our listening area, which means somebody in our listening area is going to go to the 4th round, which is awesome to see because you go to the round 4. If you win round 4, you are then in the regionals. And if you win the regionals, you end up winning. You end up going to state. And obviously, everybody wants to go play for a state championship. North Iredell beat East Rowan. That's the 2 seed beating the 15, 3-0. And Lake Norman, the 10 seed, upset Enka High School, the 7 seed, 3-0 on sets. Those 2 teams square off against each other tomorrow at noon. And last but not least, in the 4A bracket, we have a couple of schools still in it in our local area. Lake Norman beat Watauga High School 3-0 on sets. They'll move on to face the 2 seed, Cox Mill High School. And there's another school in our area that played last night, South Iredell. Unfortunately for South Iredell, their run comes to the end as the 3 seed Reagan wins the game 3-0 on sets against number 14, South Iredell. We're going to head to our first break of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty of scoreboard remaining today. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. You're listening to the Scoreboard. Like I said, this program is not live today. This was recorded earlier in the day, so unfortunately, no phone calls. But we do have a good show lined up. Just got done discussing the volleyball playoffs in the high school scene. Well, today is Friday. So we do have to go over things that are going on in high school football. We have games tonight. We have a lot of schools in our area having good seasons, looking to possibly make that final playoff push as we are well past the halfway point of the season. A team like Lake Norman only has 2 games remaining in the regular season. So we're going to get into some high school football real quick, starting with a school we know very well, Statesville High School. Statesville has been having a wonderful year so far, 7-1 on the year. Big thing here is they've scored almost twice as many points as they've allowed. So the offense and the defense are both clicking very well. They had those back-to-back shutouts, and they're coming off a win 49-13 against North Iredell last weekend. Well, tonight, Statesville has a chance to play St. Stephen's High School at home. Now, St. Stephen's High School has had a rough year. They're 1-4 in the conference, 1-7 overall. Statesville, complete opposite of that. 7-1 overall, 4-1 in the conference. So Statesville looking to continue to get some wins and make a push into the playoffs. That goes on tonight, 7 o'clock against St. Stephen's. Another school in our area that's been having a great year so far is Lake Norman High School. Now, there's a big game with Lake Norman and South Iredell High School coming up later on tonight. Now, we've talked about South Iredell a bit, and we've talked with the coach and a couple of players there as well. South Iredell having a very good year this year compared to last year, where they won the first game of the year, and then they went on a little bit of a losing streak. They actually were 2-2 at one point last year, and then they just continued to lose, unfortunately, the remainder of the year. Ended up 2-8. This year for South Iredell, things are a little different. They're 5-3 overall, 3-1 in the conference, and a big conference game coming up against Lake Norman tonight. That game is going to be at Lake Norman High School at 7 o'clock. South Iredell versus Lake Norman. That's a big game for conference seeding, for overall seeding in the playoffs. That's going to be one to keep an eye on. While we're talking about Lake Norman, let's talk about their rival, Mooresville High School. Mooresville currently undefeated in the 4A Greater Metro Conference, as they have been tearing through their conference. They have a game against A.L. Brown coming up tonight. It is on the road, so just something to keep in mind. Mooresville will be on the road at A.L. Brown. Another conference game out in Kannapolis. 7 o'clock is the game time on this one. Now, Mooresville is having a great year, like we said, 7-1. But not only that, they've scored 371 points this year, and they've only allowed a total of 79. After that loss to Reagan that they suffered early in the year, Mooresville has gone on a 6-game winning streak. Now, if you remember back to when we talked to Langston Wirtz with the Charlotte Observer, Langston Wirtz Jr. with the Charlotte Observer, he said that Mooresville is going to be a team to keep an eye on in 4A this year, because not only do they have a very solid team, but they continued in years past to get bounced in the second round of the playoffs. He said this is going to be the year that they don't get bounced in the second round, and I would not be surprised to see Mooresville High School make a deep playoff run. Their last game was against West Cabarrus last week, where they won 49-0. That is the third shutout that Mooresville has had this year. That's a team to watch when we get to playoff time. I'm telling you, you're going to want to keep an eye on them. Mooresville High School plays A.L. Brown later on tonight at 7 o'clock. A couple of more schools that we want to point out and shout out. North Iredell, we just talked about the women's varsity volleyball team going into the next round of the playoffs, which would be round number 3. Well, the football team has had a rough go of it this year. They are on a 3-game losing streak currently. It was looking good for a while. Now, they did suffer 2 losses to start the year, but then they went on a 3-game winning streak. And after their game against St. Stephen's, North Iredell boasted a 3-2 record. They were doing good. They were above 500. And then all of a sudden, a lot of conference games started to roll on top of them. 44-22, 44-6, and 49-13 are the results of those last 3 games, all of which North Iredell has dropped. Well, they have a chance to turn things around later on tonight. It is a home game for North Iredell as they'll be hosting East Lincoln High School. That game is going to be at 7 o'clock tonight. East Lincoln having a decent year, I'd say, at 6-2 overall. 3-2 in the conference. Not the best conference record, but they are doing good overall nonetheless. So one team to keep an eye on there. And last but not least, it is West Iredell. Now, unfortunately for West Iredell, they have lost all of their conference games so far this year. 0-4 going into this weekend's game against North Lincoln, which will be tonight at 7 o'clock. It seems like all these games today are going to kick off at 7 o'clock. It is another home game for West Iredell, who does not have to go on the road for the remainder of the year. So maybe a chance for West Iredell to get a win or two. And they're coming off of a brutal game against Hickory High School where they lost 76-10. Yes, you heard me correctly, 76-10. I'm telling you right now to watch out. Hickory High School could be going for back-to-back back-to-back state championships here. The last game of the year for Hickory is against Statesville High School, though, so that's going to be a really fun one. We'll keep an eye on that. But for West Iredell, with the remaining 3 games on the year, they're just looking to get a win in one of those 3 games. I don't believe that they would be able to make the playoffs if they went out, but you never know. But, turn things around, get a win, and then see how things shake out. That is a wrap on your high school football scene. I hope everybody is getting out there and supporting your local high schools. It's been a really good year. We have a lot of schools, as we've mentioned every day, having great years in not only football, but we'll continue to go over soccer as well. We have an interview coming up with a couple of soccer players later on in the month. I think to begin November, we'll be doing that. So stay tuned for that. But there are so many schools in our area that are going to have a chance at a state championship come playoff time. It's going to be a fun time in these fall sports. Hopefully the winter sports can pick up where fall is leaving off, and we can have some good showings by our schools in our area. Now, that does put a wrap on the high school scene, but that's not the only thing going on in the world of sports. Let's go over some college football. Take one step up from the high school scene, right below the professionals into college. Last night, it was number 19 Pittsburgh in action as they beat the Syracuse Orange 41-13. Some nice Thursday night high school or college football for you. You had Thursday night football in general. Obviously, if you watched on Amazon Prime with the Vikings and the Lions. But one good game here, one top 25 team in action last night in college. Now, we do have another top 25 team in action tonight. That would be Boise State, who's going to be playing UNLV. Keep in mind, Boise State, man, they have a player over there, Ashton Genty. We are 6 games into Boise State's season. In those 6 games, Ashton Genty has 126 carries, 1,200 yards, and 17 touchdowns. Hoo-wee! That is a stat line, and he's got to be the Heisman favorite. That's later on tonight, Boise State and UNLV. We got some good college football games coming up on Sunday as well between ranked programs. I mean, all of this combining and shuffling of the conferences has made for more competitive regular season, in my opinion. Obviously, one of the rivalry games that's always been around, you have Notre Dame, number 12, taking on Navy, number 24. Navy, undefeated, 6-0 going into this game. Notre Dame, I don't think they can lose another game. I think if they lose another game, they are going to be out of the college football playoff when we get to it later on in the year. A couple of other games to keep an eye on. Number 1, Oregon versus number 20, Illinois, in a Big Ten matchup. SEC matchup with number 15, Alabama, and number 21, Missouri. Vanderbilt, ranked 25th, will be taking on number 5, Texas. And number 8, LSU, plays number 14, Texas A&M. Those are just some of the ranked games for the weekend in college football. We're going to recap all of those on Monday. We're not going to go too deep into it because we have some other things to cover here on the scoreboard today. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get into the World Series and preview what we have coming up after this. Don't go anywhere. Halfway point here on the scoreboard. No phone calls today. This episode has been pre-recorded. I am not there to take your phone calls, but we're still going to talk about sports for, let's call it like the next 25 minutes or so. This is probably about how long it is. Just got done going over all of the high school and college action for the weekend in college football and high school football. Some big games between ranked college programs coming up this weekend. LSU, A&M, that is going to be a good one. We talked about it the other day. LSU and A&M are the only 2 undefeated teams left in the SEC. So that is a huge game when it comes to the playoffs. Because you got to remember, if you win your conference championship, and you're one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions, you automatically go to the playoffs. So something to keep an eye on. We're going to get away from the football talk for a little bit and turn our attention to Major League Baseball. Yes, it is officially time for the World Series. Oh boy. Game number 1 between the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees. Jack Flaherty gets the ball for the Dodgers as Garrett Cole will be on the mound for the New York Yankees. And we're only a few years removed from a Dodgers championship. Now, it was right before, it was actually the year of the shortened season for COVID. When the Dodgers won the World Series last, they beat the Tampa Bay Rays in that one, if you remember, 4-2. Man, that feels like it was forever ago. But Dave Roberts was the manager of the team back then, and this is after they had lost back-to-back World Series in 2017 and 2018 to the Dodgers and the Red Sox, respectively. They win it in 22. They don't go to the World Series in 2021, 2022, or 2023, but they're back. They are back. Now, for the New York Yankees, it has been a while since we've seen them in the World Series. The longest stretch in Yankee history, actually, tying the stretch for a World Series win. Not just appearing in the World Series, but a win in the World Series. It's been 15 years since the Yankees won the World Series. Yeah, it's been a long, long time. Now, the last time the Yankees went through a stretch of 15 years of not being in the World Series, it was 1981. And what happened in that 1981 World Series? Well, the Yankees squared off against the Dodgers. So a rematch of that 1981 World Series. Tommy Lasorda was the manager for the Dodgers then, and it was Bob Lemon managing the Yankees back then. So it's been a while since we've had the two most popular franchises in baseball squaring off each other against each other in the World Series. 1981. Wow. And I got to say, I am not upset in the slightest. Now, okay, back up. I do have to level with you guys. As you may know, I'm from the Northeast. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a lifelong Yankee fan. I've been a Yankee fan ever since I knew what baseball was. Grew up a big Derek Jeter fan. Huge Derek Jeter fan. I'm happy that the Yankees are in the World Series. I am. But at the same time, like, okay, they made the World Series. Cool. It's weird because, like, it's expected for the Yankees to make the World Series. If you were to tell me that the Panthers or one of my other teams that I like, the Rangers in hockey, were going to play for a championship, I would lose it. I'd be ecstatic. Not for the Yankees. And I wonder if that's how Dodgers fans feel as well, because we've talked about their season this year after signing Shohei Ohtani. It's been World Series or bust this year. Now compare this to last year. And I know I opened the show talking about this a little bit. Last year when we had the Arizona Diamondbacks playing the Texas Rangers, one of the least watched World Series of all time. Why? Well, probably because they're two smaller market franchises. I don't want to say Texas and Arizona are very small market teams, but they are smaller markets, and there's not as many fans of those teams as there are for the Dodgers and the Yankees. It's going to be a great World Series. We are going to witness, and here's my prediction. Here's my official prediction. This series is either going to be a sweep in 4, or it's going the distance. That is my official prediction for the 2024 World Series. It's either going to be a sweep or we're going all 7 games. Now, I lean towards going the distance. And the reason being is looking back at the regular season and what we talked about all year long. How nobody was really able to break away as the number 1 team in baseball. You know, the Yankees and the Dodgers in the regular season, they were not separated by all that many games overall. I'm talking not, we're talking about wins. The Yankees had 4 less wins than the Dodgers. The Dodgers had 98. The Yankees had 94. So the spread there is not that bad, which means these two teams are very, very similar to each other. I think this is going 7. I think we are going to have a Game 7 of the World Series. Now, Game 7 of the World Series would be scheduled for a Saturday, just so you know. A potential Game 7 would be Saturday, November 2nd. Just in case you were curious when that would be. But game number 1, later on tonight, 8:08. Every single game in the World Series is at 8:08. And it is all on Fox. No streaming, just classic Fox. So everybody should be able to watch this. I'm curious what the ratings are going to be like. I am. I do think they are going to drastically be better than last year. But after seeing some of the ratings for the ALCS and the NLCS, which were some of the most watched of all time, I think baseball could be in a spot where they gain fans and they look at the ratings and they say, okay, we made some strides this year. And unfortunately, it's because the bigger market teams are playing. Everybody loves an underdog, right? Everybody loves a small market team. Remember when the Tampa Bay Rays were throwing out an opener and doing crazy things like that nobody had ever done before, and then they go to the World Series and it was like, hey, that team's pretty good. They're fun. I like them. Well, a lot of people said the same thing about the Diamondbacks and the Rangers last year. Did they tune in to watch the World Series? No. Will people be tuning into this World Series? I believe so. I do. World Series game number 1 tonight on Fox at 8 o'clock. I'm excited. I hope you are as well. We got one more segment here on the scoreboard. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get into NASCAR. We'll touch on the Panthers. We'll touch on Charlotte FC as well. A lot of things going on in the world of sports on this Friday. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We're back after this. Time for the final segment, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, happy Friday to you. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful day. I know I am. Like I've said at the beginning, this episode is pre-recorded, so unfortunately I will not be able to take your phone calls today, but we're still going to talk about sports for the next 11 minutes or so. Hopefully everybody's tuned in, excited for what's going on Sunday, and that is the NASCAR Cup Series and Charlotte FC and the Carolina Panthers. We have a lot going on Sunday. Let's start with Charlotte FC. They are into the playoffs. They are, for the first time ever, into the round of playoffs where we have a best of 3 against Orlando City. Game number 1 is in Orlando, and it's going to be this Sunday at 7:30. Game number 2, there has to be 2 games for a best of 3, is going to be Friday, November 1st at 7:30 right here in Bank of America Stadium. For the first time ever, Charlotte FC will host a playoff game. We have 1 week before that happens. Until then, we have Sunday's game number 1 between Orlando City and Charlotte FC. If Charlotte FC can steal that game on the road, man, would that be something. Big bit of news out of Charlotte FC. Christian Kalinka announced as a finalist for the 2024 MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. He has had a wonderful year. He's been a great goaltender since he has been with Charlotte FC. I think he's one of the best assets that Charlotte FC has, just throwing that out there. Then also on Sunday, you have the Carolina Panthers who will be in action. The big news with this is Bryce Young getting the start as Andy Dalton earlier in the week was involved in an accident down in Charlotte. He ended up injuring his thumb on his throwing hand. So unfortunately, he's not going to be able to play. Bryce Young gets his opportunity. And I keep wondering, is this his last chance? Is this a matter of, Bryce, we got to throw you in there because Dalton's hurt, but we weren't really planning on it. But if you show us what you can do, maybe we'll bring you back into the fold. If Bryce Young goes back to the Bryce Young we've seen over the last, he played 18 games, I believe, so far in his career with us. I don't foresee him ever playing a game as a Carolina Panther again. But if he can come out on Sunday and score some points and make it a competitive game, I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina sticks with him for a little longer and says, okay, you know what? Let's continue to build the team. We'll bring Bryce back in as the starting quarterback and see what happens. I really think that this is make or break. Panthers at the Broncos, Sunday at 4:30. Broncos have been okay this year. I'm going to say just okay. They are currently dealing with a rookie quarterback, so you always got to keep that in mind with Bo Nix. But they do have a winning record, 4-3 right now, just over winning record. The offense can be anemic at some times and not get anything done. The defense is pretty solid there. We could see a weird game that's like 17-15 or something like that. Or 29-16. We're going to have something weird going on. I'm predicting a weird score between the Panthers and the Broncos. Can the Panthers get back on track, get a win? They definitely can, but they're 3 games back in the division now. I don't foresee them making any strides towards that gap that they have. It's really a matter of let's see what we can do for the rest of the year, and then we'll worry about next year. So the Panthers on the road against the Broncos this Sunday. And like I said, also on Sunday is the NASCAR Cup Series. It heads to Homestead Miami Speedway. Now, we have a packed weekend here for you. Starting today, actually, at 2:30, we had the practice for the Truck Series. And at 3 o'clock, it was qualifying for Homestead. 4:30 is practice for Xfinity. And 5 o'clock, right when this program begins, is qualifying for the Xfinity Series. Then on Saturday, you have practice and qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series early in the morning. And I mean 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock for practice and qualifying. Then at noon, it'll be the Craftsman Truck Series with the Baptist Health 200. And at 4 o'clock, the Credit One NASCAR MX Credit Card 300. These Xfinity Series races have been named some interesting things this year, that's for sure. That is 4 o'clock on the CW. And then on Sunday, it's the Straight Talk Wireless 400 from the Homestead Miami Speedway at 2:30. As of right now, Joey Logano is the only driver who has locked his way into the Championship 4. The way the standings work right now, Joey Logano has clinched his way into that final round. Christopher Bell is 42 points ahead of the cut line second. Kyle Larson, 35 points above the line in third, and William Byron looks like he's currently the last driver in with 27 points to the next driver. That next driver is Denny Hamlin, who's 27 points, obviously, behind William Byron. Tyler Reddick, 30 points back, and then Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott, 47 and 57 points behind. Those two drivers feel like they must win if they want to go race for a championship in a couple of weekends. Real quick, I do have some driver audio that I'd like to bring onto the program. This one from Ryan Blaney. And Ryan Blaney is going to talk to us about the risk versus reward of running the wall at Homestead.
It's a huge risk reward track, right? You're going to make more lap time right up by the fence. Your commitment level has to be very big. You're not going incredibly fast, right, in the corners because it's so slick, but that makes your kind of wiggle room pretty narrow, right? Because you're slipping and sliding and you have to put it, 3 inches from the wall. If you slip a little bit, when the tires are worn out, now you're in the fence and you have a whole bunch of other issues. So I love that place. We had a great run there last year. And I think it's a huge challenge to drivers to how can I commit my brain into entering 3 inches off the fence and not being further away than 3 inches off the fence till I get to the straightaway, and how can I run speed doing that? You can do that, but can you not be half a second off doing that? So that's a big thing. It's that commitment level. How much are you willing to risk to get the reward on the back end? And what time of race do you want to push, and really commit yourself to the top like that?
I was on Twitter not long ago, and I saw Anthony Alfredo, Xfinity Series driver, posting some information and things to know about Homestead and why drivers run the top. And there's actually a reason that they get that close. There is an air bubble that gets developed. When you're that close to the wall going that fast, there is a tiny air bubble that helps the drivers not only turn, but stay out of the fence, which is why you see so many drivers getting as close as they can to the wall. It is very fascinating to see. I mean, Homestead is always one of those tracks where you see a driver up against the fence ripping that thing. Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick are two of the best at it. And when we get to the Cup Series race on Sunday, you better believe you're going to see those two getting up near the fence as the night goes on. Well, it's not a night race. As the day goes on, I should say. The NASCAR Cup Series at Homestead Miami Speedway this Sunday at 2:30, and you can watch that on NBC. Yes, real NBC. As we get to the end of the program on this beautiful Friday, I hope everybody is enjoying their day. Let's get into some things that happened on this day in sports history. It was on this day in 2009, the New York Yankees beat the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, as they were called at the time, 4-2 to push them into the World Series, and that was the last time, as we spoke about. 2015, Lewis Hamilton gets a win at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. It was enough for him to clinch his second consecutive World Drivers' Championship. Also, on this day, let's go a little bit. Let's stick with the 90s. Evander Holyfield knocked out Buster Douglas in 3 for the heavyweight boxing title. That was on this day, 1990. Let's see. Can we squeeze one more in here? On this day, 1973, San Francisco Giants trade Hall of Famer Willie McCovey to the San Diego Padres for pitcher Mike Caldwell. That was on this day, 1973. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I will be able to see you guys on Monday. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Until then, have a good weekend, everyone. I'll talk to you on Monday. See ya.